What's up, guys? It's me again, Christian Rodriguez, and today I'm going to talk about a book that I just finished yesterday. It's called Secrets to Power Negotiating by Roger Dawson. And this right here, this book, I highly recommend it. It's such a good read. Um, but yeah, I just finished it. So I read it for the first time in the summertime, and I just finished it for the second time yesterday. So it's a very good book. It's not a book that you read though. It's a book that you have to study because there's so much valuable information from it that you can't just process it in one read. You have to read it once and then you have to take notes. You have to keep studying it. And if you're watching this video, then you'll learn a little bit about this book, right? Because it's not really there's too much content in it for me to talk about everything in the book in one YouTube video. It'll take forever, right? So I highly recommend you just read the book. But yeah, I'm going to tell you what I learned from it, my takeaways, my review on the book, right? And the thing is, it's not as famous as the other books I've talked about in this channel. You know, like Influence, Secrets of the Millionaire Fastlane, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's not as famous as those books, but this is a very impactful book, a very good book, and is very insightful. And if you want to really focus on improving your sales and communication skills, I highly recommend you read this book, right? And that's the thing. This is not, when I talk about negotiation, right? I'm not only talking about business, right? I'm not only talking about business. Like, I think everyone needs to know negotiations. Everyone needs to get good at negotiations, right? Because everything in life is a negotiation. As long as you're communicating with another person, it's always going to be a negotiation between you and that person, whether you're aware of it or not, right? Even when you were a kid and you wanted to get a new toy, maybe you wanted to get a new video game, or you wanted to get something, right? Maybe you wanted to get higher allowance money, right? Well, you had to negotiate with your parents to get that stuff. It's not something that they just gave to you. You had to negotiate it, right? And the thing is, eventually your parents made some concessions, so you felt satisfied with what you got, right? And that's going to bring me to my first point that I learned from the book, right? And he actually talks about this at the end of the book, right? He emphasizes this throughout the book, but at the end he really emphasizes on it, right? He talks about making sure the negotiation ends in a win-win for both sides, right? And he's not talking about he's not talking about just making it he's not talking about making it like you win and the other side loses, because I know a lot of people think about negotiation that way, right? They think, "Oh, I want to win this negotiation," right? The thing is, when you do that, you run the risk of, say you have to negotiate with this person again because you need them for something in the future. They're going to negotiate harder the next time, right? Because they're going to feel like they were disrespected or they were shortened, right? They got the shorter end of the stick, right? And that's the thing. Attorneys know this really well. That's why I wrote this example down here, and he mentions it in the book, right? He talks about how attorneys, right? They say there's a trial, right? And there's the prosecutor and there's the defense attorney, right? And they're both eating each other alive in court, right? They're clearly against each other. They don't like each other, whatever, right? In court, but afterwards they compliment each other. They'd be like, "Man, you did a really good job. You were tough on me." And even if he wasn't good, he reminds them, "Hey, you were very good," right? And they do that because they know that they're going to cross paths again in the future, and they kind of want to have him as like a good competitor, like an ally almost, right? Even though they're against each other. And then the next point, right? This is a really good one. It's called Good Guy, Bad Guy, right? And I like calling it Good Cop, Bad Cop because that's what's really known for, right? And the thing is, it happens far more often than you think, and it's more than just happening in a police station, right? In a police negotiation, that's how a lot of people think of good cop, bad cop. It happens more than just the the police station situation, right? So a bad guy, right? Maybe there's a guy who's the good. There's a bad guy who's very aggressive. He's disagreeable. He's completely unreasonable. He's trying to get it out of you, or he's trying to whatever, right? And then the good guy comes in. He acts like he's your friend. even someone that you can trust, someone that you can communicate with, and you feel like he understands you, right? And you feel like, the compared to the bad guy, this guy is very reasonable. He's on my side, right? Well, don't think that he's on your side. He is not on your side. The good guy and the bad guy are working together, right? They're both against you. And the thing is, with the good guy, bad guy, right? It almost like confuses you, and it makes you think, okay, if you're not aware of this, it's gonna make you think that the good guy is on your side, and the good guy is more reasonable. So I'm gonna give up some more concessions to him because the bad guy is completely a complete dick, whatever, right? And I wanted to talk about a real life case study. This actually happened to me. When I worked in sales, I was selling Verizon internet, right? I was doing door to door B2B, right? And this is back when I was in New York. And I remember I went to this auto mechanic place to sell Verizon internet. I walk in, I say my pitch, say who I am. The boss sees me, and he is ecstatic to see me. He is so happy to see me. He's like, man, yes. He's like, yes, I've been dying for you guys to come here. I've been waiting for so long. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, I got the sale. Super easy, right? And he's like, man, I'm so ready to sign up. Like, let's do this. My business partner is gonna come back tomorrow. We got to get this down. Let's do this, right? So it's like, awesome. I'm gonna come back. We're gonna get this sale done. It's gonna be amazing, right? No, it was not amazing, right? Because I meet the business partner. The business partner is not as nice as the first guy I met, right? The business partner was kind of an asshole. He was kind of he was very like pushy. He was very like, we don't need to change internet. We don't everything works fine here. Like I have this, it works perfectly fine. And then the other guy was like, yeah, but Verizon internet is very the current internet we have is complete shit, and we want, and like, we were going back and forth. They were going back and forth, and I forgot the other brand. I wasn't even very familiar with it. It wasn't something that was very popular, right? And I only came across it once in my sales experience with Verizon, right? And he was talking, and they were like going back and forth, but the guy was being like a hardball, right? And the other guy seemed reasonable. You see right there, the other guy seemed reasonable, right? And then I talked with the bad guy once, and he was like, he was being very like dismissive. He was not dismissive. He was being very disagreeable, right? He was being like, oh, there's no need to change it. He was being very like stubborn with it, right? And I was just like, oh my god, I don't think this sale is gonna work. And then I thought the business partner wanted it, and then I stepped out, right? I ended up stepping out. I went back. I went to lunch. I went back. The good guy, right? The business owner who was very nice, who really wanted the deal, was like, what did you tell him? What did you tell my business partner? Because he left like a weird note, and he just left. And what that made me do is it made me freak out. Like, it triggered loss aversion in me. I was just like, oh my god. I was like, I might have said something to blow the deal, right? I must have screwed something up in the pitch. Maybe I said something that he didn't like. I don't know what I did, right? So I'm like freaking out, and like, even I'm like, man, I didn't get the sale. Like, I screwed it up, right? And then a couple of days later, I run. I'm in front of the pizzeria, which is like near the mechanic shop, and the bad guy, right, the boss, the the business owner who was the bad guy, we happened to run into each other. He's like, "Oh, we're ready to do the deal. Just come in as soon as you can." So what did I do? I went into the mechanics, and we went to go close the deal, right? And while we were closing the deal, he forced me to make some like concessions that I normally wouldn't make, right? Like, there were some things he made us do, some requests that we normally wouldn't do, and we made and I ended up making less money in the sale, right? And what I noticed by that, right? Like, we ended up closing the sale, we still ended up getting the deal, right? But what I noticed from that is that I ended up falling for the good guy, bad guy. And this happened to me this happened about 2 years ago, right? And I read this book, and it made me like really realize, oh shoot, I just fell for that gambit in that situation, right? Because it was stressful, there was anxiety, there was like, it almost felt like a tornado and also a sun. There was also like a nice sunny day, and then all of a sudden there was a hurricane that got in the middle of it, and I didn't think I was going to get the sale. Then I ended up getting the sale, and I ended up making more concessions than I usually do just so I could close the sale. That's the good guy bad guy gambit. And Dawson talks about the best way to neutralize his gambit is to assume, right? Let the guy know, hey, I completely get it, but like to the good guy, be like, listen, whatever he says, I'm going to assume you're saying the same thing, because he emphasizes that you don't want to assume the good guy is on your side. He's not on your side. He's on the bad guy's side, even though if he seems like a completely better person, or he seems like he's more reasonable, because you're going to give more concessions to the good guy because of the contrast effect. So just don't fall for that. It's very easy to fall for, right? And then the next one, right, is be prepared to walk away. And I know this is an obvious one. I know that this is something that most people are gonna ignore. They're gonna think, oh no shit, you gotta be prepared to walk away in a negotiation, right? But the thing is, you do have to be prepared to walk away from a negotiation, but many people don't, like, they know this logically, but they don't do it, right? And because when you overcommit, right, you lose leverage in the sale, right? You're not gonna, when you overcommit, you're more likely to make more concessions. You're more likely to pay more than you usually do. You're more likely to tolerate more things when you overcommit to things, right? But when you don't commit, you're more like the other person feels off balanced, right? And you have more leverage. You're like you have that walking away power. So the person's gonna be like, oh, I'm actually gonna lose this guy. Let me sweeten the deal so I could keep this guy in, right? And car salesmen know this very well, right? They know they are masters at knowing this, right? So maybe you go into a dealership and maybe you see a nice Corvette, right? You just want to get a nice sports car. You want to get a Corvette. You go in, this car salesman's like, hey, come on, take it for a test drive, right? You go, you take it to a test drive, you're driving around, it's fast, it has good horsepower. I'm not a car guy, so I'm not gonna, but it has like a really cool engine, like has really cool stuff, makes a nice sound when you're driving it. You feel like you're the man when you're driving it. He's reminding you, man, this car suits you, man. It's amazing. And you're envisioning yourself like, man, I'm gonna look like a badass with this car. And you're like imagining it in your head, right? And then suddenly you get back to the dealership and you're so committed and in love with this car. You're like, man, I can't leave without this car. But now you're screwed, because now you're not going to walk away. Now you're going to accept unfavorable deals just because the car, just because you didn't, just because you overcommitted to the car, right? They might give you a deal that's ridiculous, that's way overpriced, right? Something that you could get somewhere else in with a better deal, and they're going to let you, and you're not going to be able to walk away because you're going to feel loss aversion from it, right? But when you have the walking away power, if the deal doesn't seem like it's right for you, you just say, I'm going to go elsewhere, right? And they might just make concessions from there. So it's really important to be prepared to walk away in a negotiation, and not even just with cars. I'll give you another example, right? With relationships, if you're with someone, right? Say you're dating some girl, and you don't have that walking away power, then she's going to be able to cross boundaries. She's going to be able to cross all whatever boundaries you have, and reap no consequences from it. So she's going to think, oh, I could get away with this, right? He placed these boundaries, but he's not acting on it, so I'm just going to keep doing it, right? But if she crosses your boundaries and you decide and you actually do walk away, then suddenly she's going to keep chasing you. She's going to be like, oh shoot, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I won't do it again. And it's going to trigger loss aversion in her, and she's going to check her behavior, right? And that's a relationship example of it. But all right, so the next one is acting dumb is smart, right? And what do I mean by acting dumb is smart, right? So Dawson quotes, smart is dumb and dumb is smart, right? Sounds kind of cool. That's another reason why I put it. But don't take this too literally. There's exceptions to the situation, right? There's exceptions, right? And the thing is, reason why I talk about this is because humans, they tend to help people that seem less intelligent, less informed, rather than taking advantage of them. And of course, there's going to be some asshole who's going to take advantage of you when you're less informed and dumb, okay? Of course. But the vast majority of the time, people feel like they want to help someone who knows less, who has less knowledge than someone else, right? Who has less knowledge than them, right? And the thing is, you can use this to your advantage, right? The thing is, this gets people their guard down, right? And they won't negotiate nearly as hard with you, right? Because they're not gonna see you as a threat, so their guard is gonna be completely down, and that's when you can get concessions from them without them even realizing it, right? And yeah, naturally, I've already basically just said the same shit. Naturally, acting dumb diffuses the opposite side's competitive spirit, right? The thing is, you also have to beware about acting too dumb, because if you act dumb in your area of expertise, like I do AI automation, I sell those services for businesses. If I just act dumb with AI automation, that's terrible, right? That they're gonna be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's not competent, and then the deal's gonna fall through. So you can't act dumb in every situation. Like act dumb. There's a specific way to acting dumb, right? Which encourages the other side to help you. And it could be asking some definitions of words. Maybe you don't understand it too well. You want to ask some definitions of words. Maybe you want to ask them to explain what they just said again because you didn't understand it. You're kind of acting a little dumb there, right? And this gets their guard down. That's what it means, right? And you know what? I didn't write this down, but there's a real life example of this. The Mossad, which is the Israeli, it's like their version of the CIA. I don't know. Yeah, it's like their version of the CIA, and they went to go catch a Nazi that fled to Argentina after World War II. He was living there for like 20 years in Buenos Aires, and his name was Adolf Eichmann, right? Adolf Eichmann was the architect of the Holocaust. So you see a big reason why they were in Argentina to get him, right? And he had a false identity. He had like a fake identity and everything. And they asked him, they were asking him who, they intentionally got his identification number wrong, his Nazi identification number when they were interrogating him. And Adolf Eichmann corrected him. And that gave away his identity. Why? Because they intentionally did that because they knew that his ego might not let him pass with getting that information wrong. So he corrected them, right? And that's how they ended up catching him. And that's how they ended up finding his identity. And they ended up bringing him back to Israel and having him go through a trial, right? So that's a real life example of using it, right? And then the last one is the red herring, right? And the red herring is when someone intentionally distracts you with the side issue so you can focus on the real issue, right? So you don't focus on the real issue, right? That matters, right? So if someone like becomes loud, they become obsessed over a side issue, or what you have to ask yourself is, why do they want me focused on that instead of the real problem, right? And I came up with an example of it, right? I made it up. So say I have an oven in my apartment, right? In my apartment, the oven just stops working. There's some issues. It's just not working, right? And I call my landlord and I'm like, hey, we need a new oven. There's an issue. It's not working. I'm not able to cook with it. There's an issue with it. We need you to replace it, right? And then your landlord responds with, I'd love to, but the economy is really slow right now, and my wife is divorcing me. She's actually about to take half my assets, right? That's a red herring, right? That's a smokescreen right there. And what you might do, right? This is the trap that you can fall for. You can be like, oh, yeah, that sounds really hard. I understand. Maybe now it's not a good time, right? No, right now is a good time. What you should be saying, right? So you don't fall for the red herring is, well, will you replace the oven or not? Are you going to replace the oven or not? Like, and he's going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll replace it. Because the red herring is basically a smokescreen, right, to distract you of the real issue. It's basically bringing another problem in to distract you from the actual problem, right? Politicians, by the way, politicians are masters at using the red herring. They use it all the freaking time. When they don't want to, when they get like a question that they don't want to deal with, I mean, when they get a question that they don't want to answer, or they don't have the answer to, or they don't have any way of coming up with a solution, they use the red herring. They use it, they'll bring up another issue, and they'll make you forget about what issue that they were just talking about. I forgot what specific issue, but Macron, I'm pretty sure it was during Trump's first presidency. The French president Macron, Trump actually confronted Macron about something publicly, and Macron answered. He answered about something completely different, and it was very convincing. It was the most politician answer ever. And Trump even said, he was like, "That's the most politician way of saying. That was the most politician way of not answering my question." Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed. I gotta run to the gym. I highly recommend this book, as I mentioned before. I hope if you go get it on Amazon, give it a read, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, subscribe and take care.